The day I was diagnosed with infertility. Leon's first love died during a difficult childbirth. Leon brought back that baby and said, "Nina, since you can't have children, treat him as our own." I spent 27 years of my efforts raising this young man with thin lips and phoenix eyes. But when Leon was on his deathbed, he tightly grasped the young man's hand and said, "Always remember, Vivian is your real mother." The young man choked up. His eyes, which used to be cold and impatient towards me, were now completely red. I finally realized that I was just a tool for them to perform their so-called deep affection. Given a chance to live my life again, I left indifferently. But this time, they were the ones who panicked. "Mina, your husband's gastric cancer is in the early stage. Our hospital recommends having the surgery as soon as possible." I held that thin diagnosis report in my hand. Unexpectedly, I was reborn on the day Leon was diagnosed with gastric cancer. Leon is 40 years old this year. His illness was rooted in the extreme grief he felt when Vivian died 10 years ago. Before I could catch my breath, Leon's call came through. "Mina, where are you? Tomorrow is Zachary's birthday party. Instead of preparing at home, where are you running around?" I was silent for a moment and then told him, "I'm at the hospital." "Are you sick?" Leon's voice paused. However, before I could explain, his voice turned cold and questioning. "Zachary's birthday is tomorrow. Can't you see a doctor in a couple of days? Why do you have to cause trouble at this time? Zachary is my only child. You don't even care about his birthday. How can you be a mother? You should reflect on yourself and come back to apologize to Zachary." After saying that, he hung up the phone without giving me a chance to speak. I looked at the black screen of the phone, and my heart felt icy cold. Every year on Zachary's birthday, I would prepare a party for him. In my previous life, under great pressure, I was negotiating the treatment plan with the hospital on one hand and preparing Zachary's birthday party on the other. I even had to do the decoration of the venue all by myself. Because I was completely exhausted both physically and mentally, I accidentally broke a bowl while decorating the venue. Zachary flew into a rage and tore all the decorations I had carefully arranged to pieces. "Get out of here. That was my favorite bowl. Who told you to touch it? You're so useless. You can't do anything right. You're just a hen that can't lay eggs. If it weren't for me, Dad would have kicked you out of the house long ago." I was so angry that I was shaking all over. Before I could say anything, Leon stood there with a dark face, shielding Zachary behind him. "Mina, how long are you going to make a scene? I know you're jealous of Vivian, but she's long gone. I don't expect you to treat Zachary as your own, but you shouldn't take your anger out on him. In the past, I thought you were gentle and docile, and Zachary would definitely like you. But you really disappoint me. No matter how much I did, I couldn't warm up these two stony hearts. Given a second chance, I won't bother for them anymore. As for this ridiculous birthday party, let whoever wants to host it do it." I made several phone calls and cancelled all the arrangements for the birthday party. And I drove back to the villa. The atmosphere at home was extremely oppressive. Zachary was sitting on the sofa in the living room, holding a game console in his hand. My gaze fell on his face. With phoenix eyes and thin lips, he looked exactly like Vivian. Vivian was indeed quite capable. Even after getting married, she could still make Leon constantly think about her. Later, she died during a difficult childbirth, and her husband's family didn't want the child. So Leon brought the child back, renamed him Zachary, and handed him over to me. In my previous life, I raised him with great hardship, but until I died, I never heard him call me Mom. Thinking about it, it's really sad. Why are you back so late? How are the preparations for tomorrow's party going? Leon came down from upstairs. When he saw my empty hands, his face immediately darkened. "Where's Zachary's cake? Did you forget it?" Leon always asked me to bake a cake for Zachary every year. Just because Vivian said before she died that she hoped someone would always make her child's birthday cake with their own hands. I sighed, opened my handbag, and took out the medical report. "I didn't prepare the cake. The hospital said, enough." "Mina." Leon interrupted me, his face looking gloomy. "What kind of temper are you throwing now? Do you have to go to the hospital to see a doctor today? It's just a cake. If Vivian were still alive, would it be your turn to make Zachary's birthday cake? You're becoming more and more unreasonable. The house hasn't been decorated yet. How can we receive the guests? If the people from Vivian's family see this, how can I face Vivian? The people from Vivian's family? I was taken aback for a moment and then remembered that the people from Vivian's family would also come to this birthday party. In my previous life, I was busy running around. But at the party, I was arranged to sit at the last seat. I watched as the people from Vivian's family and Leon got along happily, surrounding Zachary to cut the cake and take photos. When I tried to step forward, I was pushed aside by them. After the group photo was taken, Leon posted it on his social media. The whole family was in the photo, but I was the only one cropped out. Looking at Leon's still handsome face, my heart was completely calm. Leon, cancel the party tomorrow. Nina, what on earth are you going crazy about? Leon was instantly furious. Even if you don't care about Zachary, you should consider my reputation. You can't just cancel the birthday party like this. Do you want people to laugh at us? Damn woman. Who do you think you are to cancel it? What the hell are you? Zachary also looked furious and smashed the game console onto the floor. I glanced at them infuriately and took out the diagnosis report from my bag. Take a look at what's written on this. Do you still have the mood to hold the party? The anger on Leon's face hadn't subsided yet. What's this? You don't care about Zachary's birthday party and come back with this useless thing. He glanced at the diagnosis report and suddenly fell silent. The expression on his face changed from anger to bewilderment. And finally, as if struck by lightning, he stood there motionless. I withdrew my gaze and walked straight to the bedroom to pack my luggage. Over the years, I've worked like a servant for Leon, taking care of all his daily needs. But in the end, in his heart, I'm just an unreasonable and uncomfortable woman. These decades of my life are really a joke. When I came out dragging my suitcase, Leon was still sitting on the sofa. He looked at me with a complicated and indistinguishable expression. What did the doctor say about my illness? The doctor said that fortunately, it was discovered in time. If you have the surgery as soon as possible and adjust your diet later, it will be fine. In my previous life, it was me who urged him to have the surgery early. With my careful care over the following years, he lived until he was 67 years old. As long as he pays attention this time, his life can still be saved. Leon's expression relaxed a bit. And then a trace of annoyance flashed across his face. I'll arrange the surgery. The company is busy with its listing recently, and I don't have time to worry about this. Don't bother me with this matter anymore. I've said what I need to say. I sneered, picked up my suitcase, and walked outside. Only then did Leon react and stepped forward to grab my hand. What are you doing? There are so many things at home waiting for you to do. Where are you going? Zachary also rushed over and grabbed my arm. Damn woman. You haven't prepared my birthday party yet. I won't allow you to go out. I gently broke free from his hand and said calmly. Why not? Zachary, I'm not your mother. I have no obligation to spoil you. Leon's face darkened. I'm warning you. Don't talk to Zachary like that. If Zachary is not happy, I won't agree to marry you this year. Yes, adding fulfilled my obsession. I've never married Leon. Because he said he couldn't forget Vivian and wanted to keep his loyalty to her for 10 years. These 10 years were also a test for me, to see if I could love Zachary as much as my own child. This year is the last year. And it was originally the time for us to get married. I used to look forward to it very much. But now, it's ridiculous. Who needs it anymore? I said calmly. I've thought about it for a long time. Instead of making all three of us suffer, it's better for me to step out. You've always only had Vivian in your heart. After I leave, you and Zachary will be a united family. Leon's face completely darkened. Nina, do you know what you're saying? Of course I know. I looked at him calmly and walked around him towards the outside. This time, Leon didn't stop me. He stood there, watching me leave with a cold smile. I've been treating you too well in recent years, which has made you more and more temperamental. Fine. I want to see how long you can hold on. When you regret it someday, You'd better not come crying and begging me. 6. I walked quickly while dragging my suitcase, wishing I could leave this suffocating place as soon as possible. Unexpectedly, having fulfilled my ancestor, when I reached the gate of the community, I suddenly realized that my ID card was still at home. I hesitated for a moment and then turned back to get it. The door was open, and the sound of Zachary crying hysterically came from inside. Dad, don't let that woman go. If she leaves, who will cook for me? Who will wash my clothes? And what about my birthday party? Leon frowned tightly, and his voice carried a hint of impatience. Zachary, be good. Dad is sick. Let's not have the party this year. Okay? Zachary pulled at the hem of his clothes persistently. No. I don't care. If there's no birthday party, my classmates will laugh at me. I stepped into the door. Leon looked at me, and his frown relaxed a bit. But he sneered and said, What? You were so determined to leave, but you can't keep up the act so soon? He rubbed his forehead warily and pointed at Zachary. Zachary is throwing a tantrum. You should soothe him properly. I won't participate in this birthday party. I'll leave it all to you. Make sure Zachary is satisfied. Understand? I didn't answer. I just gave him a cold look and walked straight to the bedroom to get my ID card. Zachary rushed over to pull me, but Leon tripped him, and his head hit the ground. Leon was startled and quickly helped Zachary up. Zachary, how are you? Where did you fall? But Zachary seemed not to hear him. He stared blankly at me. Why are you so young? Where are you going? Suddenly, it was as if he remembered something. He suddenly looked at the watch on his wrist. March 12, 2012. I didn't pay attention to what he said. I found my ID card and turned to leave. Leon stopped me sharply. His usually gentle face was filled with anger. Nina, didn't you see Zachary fall? Is this how you're supposed to be a mother? Originally, hadn't fulfilled my obsessure. Considering that you've taken good care of Zachary in the past 10 years, I was going to agree to marry you at the end of the year. But seeing you like this now, there's no need for that anymore. I stopped, turned around, and looked at him. I also think there's no need to get married, because, from today on, I'm free. I didn't look at Leon's face anymore and left the house without looking back. The days after leading the Leon family were not easy. In the previous life, ever since Leon fell ill, I quit my job and took care of him and Zachary full-time at home. After Leon passed away, I became Zachary's full-time nanny, doing laundry for him, cooking, cleaning the house, and taking care of his daughter-in-law and grandson. In the end, I knew nothing else except these things. I was also out of touch with society and had no special skills. Nina, your skills are indeed excellent. But, as a nanny, your age of 37 is a bit sensitive. And you may not be very popular with employers. Sorry, we can't hire you. As I walked out of the domestic service company, my phone suddenly rang. It was Leon. I hesitated for a moment, but still answered the call. Nina, do you have this family in your heart at all? There was suppressed anger in Leon's voice. If it weren't for your sudden departure, Zachary could have had a happy birthday. Now, because of you, he is being laughed at by his classmates in the class. You must find a way to deal with this situation. I sneered. Leon, Zachary is your son. Without me, can't you throw a birthday party for him? It's your own lack of attention to the child. What does it have to do with me? Don't forget, I have already left the Leon family. Leon was silent for a moment. Nina, I advise you not to act on impulse. Without me, you won't be able to live outside on your own and all. Don't bother worrying about me. I hung up the phone and suddenly received a message. It was a reminder from the cemetery that I hadn't paid the management fee for 2 years. If I didn't pay it after the due date, it would dispose of my parents' ashes on their own. I looked at the message in a daze. Back then, my parents were both seriously injured in a car accident. On their deathbed, they entrusted me to Leon, my childhood sweetheart. It was Leon who swore that he would take good care of me and ensure that I had a worry-free life, so they could leave in peace. Leon used to be very good to me. On countless nights when I was awake and by the nightmare of the car accident, he always stayed by my bedside, holding my hand and coaxing me to sleep when I couldn't complete my studies due to a mental breakdown. It was he who always encouraged me and accompanied me until I graduated successfully. At that time, I thought that with him around, I had nothing to be afraid of. Until he met Vivian. Vivian had a marriage contract, so he couldn't marry her. So he watched over her from a distance and never looked at me again. I always thought that as long as I treated Zachary well, I could always open his heart again. But now, he has even forgotten my parents' tomb. I finally realized that the heart of a lover could be so fickle. I put away my phone and rushed to the cemetery in a hurry. The management office was closed, and there was a recruitment advertisement on the door. Recruiting staff. Age is not limited. Monthly salary is 8,000 yuan. Accommodation and meals are provided. Just as I was about to make a call, I suddenly felt a dizzy spell, and my eyes went dark. Recently, everything has been going wrong, and I haven't been able to fall asleep for several nights. I staggered and was supported by a pair of strong arms. How are you? I steadied myself and looked back. A pale and thin young man stood behind me. He seemed to be around 26 or 27 years old, dressed in black, with messy hair, and his deep eyes stared straight at me. I was so startled that I couldn't help letting out a cry. The other person was taken aback for a moment and instinctively let go of his hand. As he swayed, a staff badge fell out of his coat. Manager of Fushan Cemetery, Miles. I then realized that my reaction was too extreme and felt a bit embarrassed. Sorry. I'm here to pay the fee. The young man nodded silently and took out the key to open the door of the management office. I quickly went in and paid the fee, and then renewed the management fee for the next year. When I came out, I saw the recruitment advertisement at the door again. Suddenly, hadn't fulfilled my obsession. A flash of inspiration came to my mind. This was an excellent job opportunity for me. I turned around and walked back. The young man was looking out the window, holding a cigarette between his pale fingers. Light gray smoke rings exhaled from his thin lips, blurring his handsome eyebrows and eyes a bit. When he saw me, he extinguished the cigarette in his hand. Is there something? Excuse me, has the administrator here been hired yet? The young man shook his head. I suddenly felt like I had grasped a life-saving straw. If not, do you think I can take the job? Section Ed article. Truck 9 Miles was surprisingly easy to talk to. He let out a mound sound and then handed me a contract. Just like that, I started working in the cemetery. Cleaning the cemetery, pruning the flowers and plants, and receiving the families who came to pay their respects. These tasks were not difficult for me. One day, it started to rain powdering lie early in the morning. I had just finished cleaning the office when I suddenly felt a dull and heavy sensation in my lower abdomen. Only then did I remember that it was my period today. A cold wind blew, and I shivered. Suddenly, my stomach started to ache. I quickly drank some hot water and lay face pale on the table. A hand with distinct knuckles closed the doors and placed a cup of brown sugar water in front of me. A cold and clear voice echoed in my ears, "Drink it while it's hot." I looked up and faced Miles' face directly. I was stunned for a moment, reached out to take the cup, and whispered a thank you. After drinking the steaming brown sugar water, my stomach felt much more comfortable. I got up to go to the toilet and suddenly saw a figure flashing and disappearing not far away. It looked like Zachary. I shook my head. No, it couldn't be. He couldn't be here. Suddenly, had until celled session. The phone rang. It was Leon. There was suppressed anger in his voice. How can you be a mother? Do you know that Zachary is missing? I was taken aback. Zachary is missing? Then why don't you go and look for him? Why are you calling me? Leon took a deep breath. Nina, do you know how much ridicule Zachary has received at school since you left? Because his birthday party wasn't held and no one went to the parents' meeting. If it weren't for you, would he have to suffer such grievances? Early this morning, he left a letter saying that he found out where you went through your personal account and came to find you. I was stunned. How could Zachary know my account? I had a social media account that I had used for many years. But the first time I showed that account to Zachary should have been when he was 34 years old. At that time, I saw on the internet that if a person died accidentally, The traces he left on the internet would be viewed over and over again, which was no different from desecrating the corpse. So I shyly showed my account to Zachary, hoping that after I died, he could help me cancel these accounts. Unexpectedly, Zachary took a look and said impatiently, "What do you think you are? Even if you die, no one will look at these things. Do you know how hard I work outside every day? Can you be more sensible and stop acting crazy all the time?" His sharp mockery and disdainful gaze made me both sad and embarrassed. But he was only 10 years old now. How could he know my account? I hung up the phone. While I was still wondering, Miles came. He was holding a flustered boy in his hand. And it was exactly Zachary. When he saw me, he broke free from Miles and rushed up to grab me tightly. "I finally found you. Do you know how long I've been looking for you? Come home with me. I will persuade Dad to forgive you." I took a deep breath and calmly pried his hand open. "Zachary, I'm not going back. And I don't need forgiveness even more. I'm living a good life now. Don't come to find me again in the future." Zachary became anxious, pointed at Miles, and shouted loudly, "Why don't you come back with me? Is it because of him? What's so good about this man? My dad is no worse than him. Is he?" I frowned. "Zachary, watch your words. Miles is my boss. As for your dad, we were never husband and wife, and we wouldn't be happy if we were forced to be together." Zachary's eyes flickered, and he suddenly said softly, "Even if you don't want him, could it be that you don't want me either?" His tone made me feel a bit uncomfortable, and I was about to refuse. At this moment, Miles, who had been silent all this time, suddenly lifted Zachary up. Zachary's feet were hanging in the air, kicking and hitting, but Miles didn't react at all. Afraid that he would hurt Miles, I quickly brought Zachary down. "Zachary, have you had enough of making a scene?" This was the first time I had spoken sharply to him. Zachary was stunned. He looked at me for a long time, and a trace of hurt suddenly flashed in his eyes. "You shouted at me. Just for this pretty boy. You shouted at me like this? Nina, you have the nerve." He turned around and ran away without looking back. "Zachary, there were tombstones all around here. In case he bumped into a corner, the consequences would be unimaginable." I quickly chased after him, and Miles followed behind me. Zachary's small figure quickly disappeared without a trace. "Zachary! Zachary! Where are you?" The rain was getting heavier and heavier, and there was a vast expanse of white mist everywhere. We searched for a long time. After being exposed to the cold wind, my stomach started to ache badly again. Miles looked at me. "You go back first." I shook my head. "Zachary came here for me. If anything happened to him, I would be held responsible." I gritted my teeth and continued to search. At this moment, Leon rushed over in a hurry. After learning what had happened, his face looked very ugly. "Nina, how did you take care of the child?" "Zachary was born by Vivian at the risk of her life. If anything happens to him, how can I explain it to Vivian?" I retorted. "Leon, is it really worthy of your deep love for Vivian that you outsourced the care of the child to another woman?" Leon was stunned, as if he didn't expect me to talk back like this. After a moment, as if he had figured something out, a sneering smile appeared in his eyes. "Nina, you deliberately hid Zachary, didn't you? Do you think that by using such despicable means, you can force me to change my mind and reconcile with you? You're wrong. You'll only make me hate you more. There should be a limit to being jealous. Even if you're having a row with me, you shouldn't take it out on the child. Give Zachary back to me now." I was so angry that I almost laughed. "Leon, is there grass growing in your head? I only knew that filial piety could be outsourced. It turns out that fatherly love can be outsourced too. I was really blind before to have fallen for a self-centered, arrogant, and selfish scumbag like you." Leon was so angry that he raised his fist. I stared at him without showing any weakness. The fist didn't come down. Miles grabbed Leon's wrist. Leon's expression was gloomy. "Who are you? This is our family matter. I hope you won't interfere." Miles blocked me behind him, his tone calm. "You're not her husband." Leon was both ashamed and angry. He suddenly swung his fist to hit Miles. But Miles easily dodged. And Leon fell to the ground in a sorry state. Miles looked down at him from above. His tone so calm that it was impossible to refute. Legally, you two have never been married. Morally, you haven't fulfilled your responsibilities as a husband and a father. You are good for nothing. Leon got up from the ground in a sorry state. His face red with anger and his neck thickened. You're just a gigolo. What right do you have to lecture me? I didn't want Miles to get involved in our messy business. I tugged at his sleeve and stepped out from behind him. Leon, whether you believe it or not, I have nothing to do with Zachary's disappearance. Just leave. I don't want to see you again. At this moment, Zachary suddenly rushed out from the dark, shouting with a sobbing voice, "Where is this? Dad? Have I been kidnapped by bad guys? You bad woman. It must be you. I'll beat you to death." Before he finished speaking, he rushed towards me like a small cannonball and punched me in the stomach. I was caught off guard and took a solid punch. My lower abdomen already hurt, and now it felt as if my whole body was about to split apart. My legs went weak, and I fell backward. A pair of arms promptly supported my waist. I looked up and saw Miles' prominent Adam's apple and tightly pursed lips. There was a bit more coldness in his eyes. "How are you?" I was in too much pain to speak and could only shake my head. Zachary, however, stood there stunned, as if waking up from a dream, looking at me helplessly. "Sorry. It wasn't me just now." Leon pulled him behind him and looked at me with a vigilant expression. "What are you up to again? Now that the child has exposed you himself, are you pretending to faint?" Miles frowned tightly, picked me up horizontally, and gave them a cold look. "Let's go to the hospital. Get out of the way." Leon, however, blocked him. "The hospital? What else is she trying to pretend? She kidnapped Zachary. She has to give me an explanation today." In Miles' arms, I saw his finger joints tighten until they turned pale. Leon, however, didn't give in an inch. "Zachary is just a child. How could she do such a vicious thing? You make Nina apologize to me personally." I raised my head despite the pain and managed to squeeze out some strength from between my teeth. "Leon, take your son and stay away from my life. I don't want to see you in this life. The next life. Or the life after that." Miles lifted his leg and kicked Leon in the chest without hesitation. Leon was completely off guard and was kicked to the ground. He looked up in a sorry state, watching Miles carry me away. Shame, anger, and disbelief flashed in his eyes. He tried to get up and chase after us, but Zachary held him back and said in a low voice, "Dad, it wasn't her. I came here by myself." Leon's body froze instantly, and he turned back to look at Zachary. By then, Miles had already carried me far away. He gritted his teeth. "Nina, if you don't bow your head this time, don't ever come back. You'll regret it for the rest of your life." When I woke up again, I was in the hospital. Miles was sitting by my bedside, resting his head on his hand. It was the first time I looked closely at his appearance, and I realized that his eyebrows and eyes were incredibly good-looking. With his eyes closed, his nose was straight and tall, and his stray forehead hair fell down in small pieces, adding a bit more of a youthful feel. Thinking back to those strong and firm arms before I passed out, I, a 37-year-old aunt, actually felt a bit of heat on my face. I patted my cheeks, reminding myself that I shouldn't have improper thoughts about a younger man. Miles woke up when he heard the movement. "You're awake. I'll go call the doctor." I quickly grabbed him. "It's okay. I'm already better. I'm sorry about what happened today. I've caused you trouble. And thank you for helping me." Miles looked at me quietly, as if there were 1,000 words in his eyes. After a while, he asked, "We met 3 years ago. Do you remember?" I was taken aback. 3 years ago? Seeing my blank expression, a trace of disappointment flashed in Miles' eyes. "I just came here 3 years ago. There were a lot of things to deal with in the cemetery, and I often worked all night. I was extremely hungry that morning. In a trance, I went to the convenience store to buy breakfast. When I was about to pay, I found that my phone was out of power. The store owner was going to call the police, saying that I was having a free meal. It was you who paid for me and also gave me a serving of hot steamed buns. He looked at me steadily. Those steamed buns were soft, fragrant, and steaming hot. They were the most delicious steamed buns I've ever eaten. I suddenly remembered. That morning, I took Zachary to the kindergarten. I had prepared the steamed buns I made myself as breakfast, but Zachary refused to eat them and insisted on having the oden from the convenience store. I hurried to buy it and saw a tall and thin young man being scolded by the store owner. The young man had dark circles under his eyes, and his hand holding the phone was shaking all the time. I guessed that he might be in some kind of trouble. So I stepped in to pay for him and gave him the steamed buns I made. It was just a breakfast. Unexpectedly, he remembered me because of it. When he saw that I remembered, the tips of Miles' ears turned slightly red. Since then, I've always remembered you. Later, when I saw you in the cemetery, it suddenly dawned on me. So that's why you agreed to let me get the job? It really is true that when you give someone a rose, you are left with its fragrance. Sure enough, people should do more good deeds. Miles paused. He pursed his lips, trying to speak several times but stopping. Finally, having fulfilled my sorry, he averted his gaze, and all the words in his heart were forcefully suppressed. I'll go get some water. As he said that, he picked up the water kettle by my bedside and walked out quickly. Looking at his back, I suddenly felt a bit sad. A stranger could remember my little bit of unintentional kindness for so long. But those I cared for with all my heart and effort only regarded me as a tool. Miles didn't come back for a long time. I was getting a bit anxious when the door of the ward suddenly opened. "You're back." Lynn, my words caught in my throat. The person who came was actually Leon. He stood at the door of the ward, his lips tightly pursed, and his tone a bit cold. "Have you had enough of your tantrum? Come home with me." My face darkened. "We have no relationship anymore. Leon, please leave." Leon stared at me intently, and suddenly let out a soft laugh. "Enough. Nina. Finding a gigolo and trying to make me jealous. Do you really think I'll fall for such a trick? All right. I agree to marry you. You've been making a fuss for so long. Isn't this what you want?" I stared at him in disbelief, almost suspecting that I had misheard. "What did you say?" Leon frowned, looking a bit impatient. "Zachary has already explained to me. What happened before was just him playing around. Now he has accepted you. Come back with me. And I agree to marry you." I laughed out of anger. "Leon? Where on earth does your superiority come from? I won't marry you. And I won't go back either. Don't you understand?" The expression on Leon's face instantly darkened. He suddenly stepped forward and grabbed my wrist. "Is it because of that man? You're giving up on me and Zachary just for that kid?" He grabbed my wrist and dragged me off the hospital bed, all the way into the corridor. Not far down the corridor, Miles was talking to a young girl, and there was a rare trace of warmth on his face. Leon pointed at them and sneered. "Do you think he really has feelings for you? Mina, what can you compare with that person? You're an old woman. What could he possibly want from you? Wake up. Don't be greedy for a moment of novelty, and end up being cheated out of everything." I looked in the direction he was pointing. I don't know what the young girl said, but Miles laughed heartily and reached out to ruffle her hair. The girl hugged him tightly, with a bright smile. The way Miles looked at her was also full of tenderness. They looked very well matched standing together. "So?" I turned my head and looked at Leon in disbelief. "Leon, you're so mean and dirty in your heart that you think everyone is like you? Miles and I are above board. We don't need to be suspected by a villain like you." Leon's smile froze instantly, then twisted, and he laughed out of extreme anger. "Nina, you really don't know what's good for you." He suddenly pushed me. I stumbled and fell backward. The expected pain didn't come. Instead, I fell into a warm and familiar embrace. That clear and pleasant smell reached my nose again. I looked up and saw Miles' deep eyes. A furious shout came from a distance. "Hey! What's wrong with you?" The young girl who had been talking to Miles just now rushed up. She was petite and cute, but her voice was full of strength. "What's wrong with you? In public, you dared to hit someone." Leon held back his anger. "She's my wife. It's none of your business in our family affairs." The girl was so angry that she jumped up and down, and her finger almost pointed at Leon's nose. Who's your wife? Are you blind? That girl is so young. How could she be a couple with an old man like you? You're a grown man. But you're molesting a woman. You have no manners at all. You've lived all these years in vain. The girl spoke like a machine gun, calling Leon an old man one after another, and made Leon's face turn livid with anger. Seeing that more and more people were gathering to watch, Leon left in a fit of anger and embarrassment, flinging his sleeves. I was completely confused. But the girl took my arm. Sister. You must be Nina. Right? So my brother likes such a beautiful and elegant sister. No wonder he didn't like any of the people I introduced to him. I was stunned. The atmosphere fell silent for a moment, and I instinctively looked at Miles. The tips of his ears were bright red, and he turned his head to the side in a flustered manner. His sister looked at us, giggled, and ran away. Only Miles and I were left in the corridor. The atmosphere was a bit strange for a while. After hesitating for a long time, I spoke first. I'm much older than you. We're actually not suitable. You're young and excellent. And there will definitely be many good girls who like you. Miles interrupted me. The tips of his ears became even redder, and his hands hanging by his sides clenched into fists nervously. I like you, Nina. I suddenly raised my head. After saying these words, Miles seemed to let out a sigh of relief. I instinctively took a step back, but he suddenly grabbed my wrist. His clear eyes stared at me intently, his gaze burning and focused. You're open and sincere, gentle and resilient. I've met a lot of people, but no one is like you. You have such a dazzling soul. I looked away in embarrassment. I suddenly remembered that in my previous life, because of Leon's illness, I forgot to buy Zachary limited edition model. Zachary threw a tantrum because of this. To soothe him, I ran all over the city in the wind and finally delivered the model to him that night. But Zachary didn't care at all. He threw the gift I prepared onto the ground fiercely, jumped on it, and stomped it to pieces. Dad has already bought me this model. Who cares about your junk? I was just playing you for a fool. You bitch. Because I got caught in the rain. I had a high fever and lay in bed, parched and uncomfortable. I asked for water in a weak voice. But no one even glanced at me. In a dazed state. Through the door, I heard the happy laughter of Leon and his son. All along, I have been living in the despair of giving without being seen. Like a candle that keeps burning. It silently illuminates others while gradually approaching its extinguishment. I never thought that someone could see my light. Tell me. Nina. You are so dazzling. I looked up, and Miles looked at my face seriously. Choose me and give it another try. Okay? I hesitated for a long time and stretched out my hand trembling. Okay. This time, perhaps, I can be a little braver. Miles and I continued to run the cemetery. And our days were peaceful and happy. One day, as I was about to close the door, I saw someone pacing back and forth outside the gate. It turned out to be Zachary. He looked at me with a strange expression. You were reborn, weren't you? My heart was in turmoil. But I remained calm on the surface. What are you talking nonsense about? Zachary stared at me intently. Why are all the choices you make different from those in the previous life? Are you? Did you also come back with the memories? I was shocked. Zachary also knew about the previous life. Could it be that he was also reborn? Zachary looked at me with a livid face. So it's true. Nina. How could you be so heartless? My dad has been having stomachaches frequently recently. When he went to the hospital for a re-examination, he found that the cancer cells had already spread. In the previous life, you took good care of him by his side. And he lived until he was 67 years old. But the doctor said that he can live for at most one more year now. He grabbed my hand tightly. And a trace of hatred appeared on his face. Why? We were so good to you. Why did you leave when we needed you the most? I stared at him steadily. There was a faint cracking sound coming from somewhere in my heart. I looked up. And not far away, a black Maserati was parked. The window of the driver's seat was half open, revealing half of a face. It was Leon. He stared intently at this place. But there was a trace of feigned reserve on his face. Do you really think you were good to me? Zachary stuck out his neck. My dad and I worked hard to earn money. And you just had to take care of us at home. You didn't have to do anything else. Isn't that good enough? Aren't you ashamed to be so ungrateful? I laughed. So in their eyes, this was what they called being good to me. Even if a white-eyed wolf is reborn, it will still be a white-eyed wolf. How could those who benefit from the existing situation reflect on themselves? I thought too much. For such people, just one word is enough. I grabbed Zachary and dragged him to Leon's car. Then, let out a low sorry. In front of Leon. I slapped him hard. This slap is for me in the previous life. Leon was startled and quickly opened the door and got out of the car. Mina. Are you crazy? This slap is for me at this moment. I sneered. Before Leon could react, I slapped him again with the back of my hand. You keep saying you were good to me. Then let me ask you, do you too? Father and son. Know when my birthday is? Leon covered his face and stood there in a daze. I smiled bitterly. Yura. Leon. Would pay respects to Vivian. You remember her death anniversary. But you never remember that it's also my birthday on that day. Over all these years, you have never once thought of bringing me even a piece of cake. Zachary. Before your father died, he made a will leaving all his property to you. Not giving me a single cent. Because he knew that as long as I had no money in my hand, I could only keep working hard and taking care of you without complaint. In his heart, I was a servant. A slave. But never a family member. In the previous life, I gave everything but ended up with nothing. Do I have to repeat the same mistakes in this life? Zachary's face turned ashen. And his eyes were filled with shock and disbelief when he looked at me. He covered his face, staggered back a few steps, and suddenly turned around and ran away. Zachary. Leon instinctively wanted to chase after him, but stopped abruptly. Mina. You misunderstood. I was just too busy sometimes and ignored your feelings. But you have always been in my heart. Stop talking. I interrupted him and looked back. Behind the wall of the office, a corner of Miles' trench coat was revealed. I already have a boyfriend. And I don't want him to misunderstand. Leon was stunned. He was silent for a while and then slowly said, Is it that, Miles? I nodded. Leon twitched the corners of his mouth and let out a low sneer. Mina. How long have you known him? Do you really know him? You will regret it sooner or later. I looked at him quietly. Leon. You don't understand Miles at all. You don't understand me at all either. Leon stared at me. And a crack gradually appeared in his expression. Miles came out from behind, hugged me tightly in his arms, and gently rubbed his head against mine. I'm a plain person by nature and rarely regret things. But the only thing I regret in my life is not meeting Nina earlier. That's why she suffered so much by your side. A scumbag. The color drained from Leon's face in an instant. Mina, you let him insult me like this? I shrugged. My boyfriend is a bit straightforward. Don't take it too hard. Leon stared at me intently. And his eyes gradually turned red. I don't believe it. You love me. You just want to make me angry. Right? He reached out to pull me. But I dodged aside. Miles reached out to stop him. Please behave yourself. We will get the marriage certificate next month. Leon suddenly turned to him. And all the emotions he had been holding back shattered in an instant. After a long time, he turned around and got into the car, but stumbled and almost fell. He climbed into the seat in a sorry state, gritted his teeth and glanced at me with red eyes, and slammed the car door shut as if venting his anger. Mina. You will definitely regret it. The wheels made a harsh screeching sound, and soon he disappeared from sight. I let out a soft sigh and looked up at Miles. Who said we're getting the marriage certificate next month? Miles smiled and kissed me. This proposal wasn't formal enough. I'll make it up to you another day. Later, I never saw them again. I heard that Zachary was in a trance on his way back and happened to encounter a passing truck. Instead of dodging, he ran straight into it. Although he managed to escape death, he went crazy. He was crazy all day long, shouting, Who on earth am I? One day, he suddenly disappeared and no one knew where he went. In order to look for him, Leon neglected the management of the company and was besieged by his competitors, falling into huge debts. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol every day and had an extremely irregular diet, and his stomach cancer worsened. Under several blows, he died of illness not long after. I soon left the matters of the father and son of the Leon family behind. Because Miles and I were going to get married. In the previous life and this life, adding up to more than 100 years. I finally waited for the person who would walk through this life with me. I finally understood. The person who truly loves me will always be behind me, giving me the courage to take that step.